YouTubers. I am Jason Wiersema. This is Tankers Fantasy Football, and today we're going to get down and dirty into some stardom situms for your week 6. But before we do, you know how we do it here at Tankers Fantasy Football. Maybe you throw us a like, maybe you don't, maybe you hit us up with a subscription, maybe you don't, maybe you go fuck yourself. Now we're getting real close to climbing up to that 500 subscriber mountain, boys. Oh, I can almost taste the 500 subscribers. So if you are not yet subscribed to Tankers Fantasy Football, I would greatly appreciate if you could just go down there right below the screen here and hit that red subscription button, and we would greatly appreciate it here at Tankers Fantasy Football as our quest for a 50 like video and 500 subscribers this season keeps climbing, baby. All right, we're gonna get right into some running back starts of the week. I know most of you are probably playing this guy regardless, but I just talking about him so we can talk about a little Gus Edwards too. At Mark Ingram, definitely the start of the week. The Bengals are giving up the second most yards and the second most touchdowns to opposing running backs. I think this game will get out of hand fast enough, and Gus the Bus will even be able to find his way into the end zone. So if you are in a desperation situation looking for a flex play, I would go out there and get yourself some Gus the Bus. All right, another kind of situation that's kind of been you've been looking to avoid this whole season, but this week might be able to get you some flex play sex going on. We got some Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson going down to Miami to play versus the Dolphins, and they're getting up the most yards and most touchdowns a game to opposing running backs. So you could do worse than Adrian Peterson in your flex this week. I believe this, the game script's not going to get out of the hands because they're playing the Dolphins. I think Adrian Peterson's going to go out there and get 15 to 18 touches and be able to fall his ass into the end zone. All right, Matt Breida and Tevin Coleman, they are at the Los Angeles Rams. We're giving the fourth most points to opposing running backs. So just like on Monday Night Football, I think Matt Breida and Tevin Coleman are going to be sexy deluxe flex plays for you this week. All right, solid RB2 play this week. We got some Kerryon Johnson going up to Green Bay to play the Packers, who are giving up the most points this season so far to opposing running backs. So all in, solid, sexy, deluxe, maybe even finish as a back-end RB1 this week, will Kerryon Johnson. All right, our last start at running back, kind of, I don't know, I'm trying to find any way to get this asshole out of my lineups. Joe Mixon didn't even really get out there and get it sexy versus the Cardinals at home this week. He's playing the Ravens. I know when you look, you see at Baltimore, it's a lot scarier looking on paper than it really is because the Ravens are giving up the third most touchdowns to opposing running backs. So, I mean, if you don't have anybody else to fill in as your RB2, I guess we can go out there and run Joe Mixon out there. I'm going to have to do it in my main hometown keeper league. I'm going to have to run you out, Joe, because of bye weeks and injuries, because Barkley is not yet back from injury. But, Joe, I'm hoping you can fall your ass into the end zone this week. All right, we got some sits at running back. Jordan Howard's kind of been your sexy boy lately. Miles Sanders also in this backfield, but they're playing the Vikings up in Minnesota, and they're giving up the 5th fewest yards and the 3rd fewest points to opposing running backs. So I'm not saying you can. I'm not saying, definitely bench Jordan Howard, because Doug Peterson just came out this week, said Jordan Howard needs to be getting even more work. So if you don't really, I'm not saying to bench Jordan Howard for some waiver wire cock bum deluxe or anything like that. I mean, if you don't got anybody, go ahead and put your Jordan Howard questions in the comment section below if you got anybody else on your bench that could fill in for Jordan Howard. Otherwise, I'd probably just ride him out there and hope for the best. We got some Hillman for the Giants playing tomorrow night, and I just don't know. I mean, the Patriots give him the 3rd fewest yards. The Patriots haven't given up a rushing touchdown yet this season. Elijah Penny may be more involved in the passing game. And, there's a lot of prop bets out there, and Elijah Penny touches, Elijah Penny, over-unders. And I think I'd go out there and smash a lot of those. If you're talking about Elijah Penny over-under 5 touches, I would definitely get out there and smash that. I will not trust Hillman whatsoever. All right, we got some Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. I know Royce Freeman's more of a bench. Philip Lindsay's probably more of a temper expectation situation because they're playing the Titans. They're giving them the 3rd fewest touchdowns and the 4th fewest points to opposing running backs. So, I know you got to go out there. You got to play Philip Lindsay. Absolutely. But, maybe temper your expectations this week. Another temper your expectations situation. We got some Todd Gurley playing against the Niners. Niners defense looking tough as nails out there, giving up the second fewest yards and the fewest touchdowns tied with the Patriots. They have not given up a rushing touchdown yet this season, and that is equated to the fewest fantasy points allowed to running backs. All right, get into it, dig deep, getting down into some wide receivers. You got Will Fuller. He only had 1 week. It was last week that he scored over 10 PPR points, but that 1 week alone was so sexy deluxe. It propelled his ass to be the 7th ranked PPR wide receiver. But I think he continues to get it sexy this week versus the Chiefs. Probably looking to be one of the highest over-unders on the week, so I'd all in, still leave Will Fuller in your flex. He will go out there and get it done for you. We got some Julian Edelman and Josh Gordon playing tomorrow night. Giants, absolutely shit show, desolation row. Don't really want to watch the game. It's going to be a fucking shit show. The only reason I'm watching is because I got players playing against me in fantasy football, but the Giants are giving up the second most yards to opposing wide receivers, so all in on the Edelman and Josh Gordon this week. All right, we got some Fitzgerald, and if he plays, Christian Kirk might be my wide receiver start of the week because the Falcons, they have the Falcons coming into Arizona. Falcons are giving up the 4th most yards and the 2nd most touchdowns, and that equals the most fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. We saw what Will Fuller just did to him last week, so if Christian Kirk does get a full practice in Friday, and he suits up at home versus the Falcons, I'm talking about start of the week. All right, if Tyreek Hill continues to sit, if he's not cleared for contact, he has been practicing. They just haven't cleared his shoulder for contact yet. I think Mecole Hardman and Byron Pringle can go out there and get it done versus the Texans. Are giving up the 6th most yards to opposing wide receivers. So you went out there and got Pringle off your waiver wire. I know I did in one of my leagues. I think you can run him out there if Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill both sit. All right, last chance for romance for Stephon Diggs. I know he went out there and got you 7 for 108 versus the Bears. That might have been a blip. That might have been a delusion of grandeur because he hasn't done dick shit with the rest of these games. But he is playing the Eagles. They're giving the 4th most points to wide receivers thus far this season. So last chance for romance and love out there. If he doesn't get it done this week, we're talking about bench Stephon Diggs until further notice. All right, Calvin Ridley, Arizona, surprisingly stiff versus the rush, but they aren't that sexy versus the pass. So I'd go out there and ride Calvin Ridley. Got it right for you last week. I think Calvin Ridley will continue to get it right for you this week. All right, we got some scary Terry at the Dolphins, giving the 4th most touchdowns to wide receivers. So Scary Terry's out there grinding for you. He should be also out there grinding in your flex spot. Got some Panther action going down to Tampa Bay. The Bucs are giving up the most yards and the 2nd most points to opposing wide receivers. So I think all in on the DJ Moore and possibly on the Curtis Samuel as well this week. All right, we got some sits at wide receiver. We got some Marquise Hollywood Brown. I know he's a little banged up already. That's just another reason to maybe consider talking about sitting him. The Bengals are surprisingly kind of tough against the pass because all these teams get up such big leads. They just kind of run the ball down their throats for the rest of the game. No real need to air it out. Even Bengals went out there and even shut Juju out a couple of weeks ago. The Bengals are giving up the 5th fewest yards and the 7th fewest touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. Another kind of bubble sit. This guy's kind of, flex play on the flex play bubble. Marvin Jones playing the Packers. They're giving him the 7th fewest touchdowns to wide receivers, and Marvin Jones is the type of guy that kind of lives or dies on the touchdowns. We got some Titans you probably want to bench. Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. They're at the Broncos, and the Broncos are giving up the 3rd fewest touchdowns and yards to opposing wide receivers. So I know you're probably not thinking, if you are, maybe you're thinking between these two cocks and a couple other cocks over here. I just go ahead and I'd choose these cocks over here because the Titans are probably looking to be shut down in Denver via the pass. All right, we got some Robbie Anderson, Jamison Crowder. Even if Sam Darnold comes back, do not get your hopes up. Do not put these guys in your lineup. The Cowboys are giving the 2nd fewest yards and the 3rd fewest touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. All right, we got some quarterback starts of the week. Kyler Murray has kind of not been able to get it in the end zone for you, but playing against the Falcons are giving the 4th most touchdowns and the 3rd most points to opposing quarterbacks. So all in. Kyler Murray got it right via the rush last week. I think he's about to get it right via the rush and the pass this week versus the Falcons. All in. Kyler Murray, top 5 fantasy quarterback start this week. All right, Matt Ryan, same game. Cardinals do give it up through the pass, not the air. But the Cardinals are tied with the Falcons, also giving up the 4th most touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. So all in on the Matt Ryan as well. We got a couple sits at quarterback. Jameis Winston playing against the Panthers, giving the 5th fewest yards and 7th fewest touchdowns. And Jared Goff playing the Niners. Niners looking tough as nails from the depths of the sea. That defense is tough. Niners are giving up the 2nd fewest yards and the 2nd fewest points to opposing quarterbacks. So if you got anybody else besides Jared Goff, I'd look to explore that situation. All right, moving on to tight end. We got one tight end sit. I know Greg Olsen out there shit the bed for you last week. Got you the big 0, but I'm talking about a bounce back week versus the Bucs down in Tampa, because the Bucs are giving up the 2nd most yards and the 2nd most touchdowns to opposing tight ends. So go ahead and get Greg Olsen back in your lineups. All right, we got a couple sits at tight end. We got the Hawkinson. Even if he does play, I'd probably leave him on the bench, because the Packers are giving the 3rd fewest points to tight end. And Gerald Everett, I know you got out there on the waiver wire, you got some Gerald Everett, you got your pretty new little pet out there, and you just can't wait to unwrap him and run him out there. But I'm saying, temper your expectations this week. Playing the Niners, tough as nails. The Niners give the fewest yards and fewest points to opposing tight ends. All right, we got some streamers, some streamer defensive picks of the week. We got the Seahawks going to Cleveland. Cleveland offensive line was absolutely trash. The Seahawks should be able to put points up on the Browns, even though it's on the road. I am all in on the Seahawk D this week. All right, we got the Cowboys versus the Jets. Even if Sam Darnold does play, I'm all in on the Cowboys defense this week versus the Jets. And if you're really desperate, your defense on bye, you got no other options. These other 2 defenses aren't available on your waiver wire. You need to dig deep. And I'm talking about digging deep. And you got to pick your poison between the Redskins or the Dolphins and the Toilet Bowl Deluxe down in Miami, baby. Just pick one of those and hope for the best. I'd probably lean Redskins. All right. I'd like to cut in my jib. Yeah, you get down there, give us a subscribe like we talked about earlier, get our asses, get it going, get it up there to 500 subscriptions, baby, and I would greatly appreciate it. Put all your questions this week, start them, sit them questions, put them down in the comment section below. I will get back at you, and we got we're talking about going up to the Bears game week 7. We don't have tickets, but we got the Hog, the RV. Go up there, get drunk, do some tailgating. If anyone is in the Quad Cities area, get a hold of me down in the comment section below. Sir Bongsalot, I'm looking at you, buddy. I know you are in the area. So if you or anyone else wants to get down, wants to ride in the hog, wants to get real crazy with me and the boys, week 7 with the Bears versus the Saints up there at Soldier Field. Go ahead and put that down in the comment section below, and we will try to arrange a meet and greet situation and get you on the hog come week 7. All right, holler at me.
I'm hot as fuck, bitch.